Welcome back to Breakfast from Bahrain. My name is Bob Babbitt. We're brought to you by Babbitttville Radio. Check us out on iTunes. Our next guest, only the best female endurance athlete on the planet, 3-time Ironman world champion. And she is here in beautiful Bahrain. This isn't a bad place to end up your season.
No, not at all. I signed on for this race very early this year, knowing that it was going to be a race to be at and one to tell stories about post-career. So I'm excited to be here. Definitely a long trip from the US, but well worth it. I mean, this is a place I've never visited before. And for me, triathlon's about, trying to be the best athlete you can, but it's also about experiences. And I think this will definitely be a great one.
When I look back at the early part of your career, 70.3 champion and moving on Ironman, the routine was basically one Ironman a year in Kona. When I look back this last year, you win Kona in 13. A month later, you're freaking doing Florida, and then you're doing Challenge Roth in the summer, and then you're doing, so basically 4, right, in the span of a year. That's a little different from the formula from before. Obviously, it worked. Was that the plan?
Doing Florida right after Kona was really just to validate. And obviously, I didn't race that race, but it's still an Ironman. It's still a marathon. It's still a 9-hour day. Yeah. It is a lot, but I think it's good to go and get that out of the way early because you're riding off your Kona fitness. It's certainly not ideal to be backing up, but you're going into a prolonged off-season at that point. So racing early, November, knowing I'm not really going to be racing until April. I had a lot of time off, obviously married. We got married in December, honeymoon in January, so we really had a long off-season. And that definitely enabled me to recover and then prepare for this year. And choosing to do Challenge Roth was really not something I would have even considered in the past, but after winning Kona and having such a great day, I just really want to experience, and as I mentioned earlier, Roth and that great event that it is. And
that's a pretty amazing experience.
Absolutely, and to come away with the win there. Honestly, I was still preparing for Kona. I wanted to race Roth well, and I certainly in the early part of the year was lining that race up to try and hopefully race well and win. But then, the year plays out, you get pulled in different directions. And I got to the start line and didn't know if I'd be ready to race a full, and I was very pleasantly surprised and pleased that I was able to pull out a great performance there and take the win there. And then, that made me a little bit nervous going into Kona, knowing that I put in such a big effort only 3 months before the biggest race of the year for me, which is Kona. So we pulled it off this year, but I'm not going to do that again in 2015 because I think that was a lot to take on in 1 year. That's not to say that I want to do Roth again in the future, but I think you've got to really be smart about your scheduling. That's what it comes down to.
So when you go into Kona this year, trying to win for the third time, when that changes the game, when you go from being a one-time champion, 2-time champion, that's huge. And then you start getting to 3, 4, 5, and the Paula zone up there, things change a lot. When you're off the bike over 14 minutes down, I'm sure at that point, and I think you were still in the top 10 at that point, but your thought at that point was probably, let's see if I can get in the top 5, let's see if I can get in the podium. As you're running along, when did you start feeling, you look great right away, but we can't tell what's going on inside. Sure. Did you feel good right away?
My body felt strong, and I knew that I'd done all the right things throughout the race in that I'd made sure I hydrated correctly. I made sure I took on all my calories. I made sure I took on my salt. So I knew that I was setting myself up for a great marathon. Yeah. But you never really know if it's going to eventuate until you get onto the run. And starting the run, I had a bit of a negative mindset just because 14:30 was certainly not the plan and not something that I wanted, amount of time that I wanted to give the caliber of the women that were ahead of me. But then, I switched those negative thoughts into, okay, well, this is the position I find myself in, and I can only do what I can do at this point. And the first goal, you break them down. First goal, get into the top 5. Right. Fortunately for me, top 5 meant pretty much third place because I overtook Mary Beth, Carolyn, and I'm forgetting the other girl. This name's escaping me, but basically
Right
was
away.
6th to 3rd.
Right.
Between like mile 13 to 15. I don't exactly know before we went into the energy lab anyway. So then I'm in 3rd place, and I'm all of a sudden feeling
now you're
positive.
playing with house money, yeah.
Absolutely. I'm like, well, hopefully.
You've never been off the podium there, right?
Never been off the podium there, and 3rd place, that's fantastic after getting down off the bike so far back. And then you sort of have more of a positive mindset, and going to the energy lab, I was able to really get a good look of Rachel and Daniela. And at the turnaround, I got a split to Rachel, and I think it was only 2 minutes to Rachel at that point. And then I started to believe, okay, well, 2nd place is a possibility here. And you just keep pushing, and then once you can see them off in the distance, I think it almost becomes easier because your focus is just zoned in on that one person, that one task, and nothing else matters.
Right.
And so once I had Rachel in my sights, that was my goal, to catch Rachel. And then once I caught Rachel, Daniela was starting to crumble and fall apart, and so I could see her. So that became my next goal, and ran into 1st place. So
coming back after after not winning a couple years ago, when when you took 3rd, and coming back and winning, I'm sure that had to be satisfying, right? And breaking a course record last year has to be satisfying. But coming from, there's epic races at the Ironman. We both know. Dave Scott running Mark Allen down with 12, 13 minutes. Mark Allen running down Thomas Hellriegel to win, and his it's like 12, 13 minutes, and then 14:40. You're looking at epic races, right? And I know that you're a little bit of a history buff when it comes to this stuff, and having a race like that people will be talking about that forever and ever and ever. That's got to be pretty satisfying.
Absolutely. I'm a student of this race, certainly Kona. I've followed closely all of the champions over the years, and sort of figured out what it took to become one of those champions. And that's not to say that I ever really believed or thought that I would be one of those champions, but you're taking the steps all the time to try and be as good and better than women were in the past. Right. And that's what you have to do to win these days. You have to be better. The sport's evolving. People are getting faster every year. So, to put my name up amongst Chrissy, Paula, Natasha Badman, that's massive. For me, that's validation that I am doing the right thing. I was born to do triathlon, I believe, and racing Kona.
I think you were born to do basketball. What the hell? What were you thinking?
Well, I did think that originally, but at 5'3", I was never going to.
Proven wrong. When you look at this race, and I love about this race is, one, the women's field is, you pick something out of a hat. You want an Olympian, you want Jody Stimpson, you want a short course person, or your friend Annabelle Luxford. She's going to be a factor here today.
For sure.
What do you think in terms of the people, and do you like the mix of, hey, you got 70.3, you've got Ironman, you got 51, you got all this hodgepodge of amazing athletes.
Yeah.
All of them want the same thing, sort of meeting in the middle in Bahrain.
Yeah, I love it. A prize purse like this one was always going to attract a great field.
Right.
My only regret is that I'm not really in the shape to be able to compete on Saturday, which, I'll take a Kona win over anything.
Of course.
But, I'm excited to be more of a spectator. I think that's really what I'm going to be doing out there on Saturday.
A mobile spectator?
Mobile spectator.
You'll have the best seats.
I'll have a front row seat to the battle that goes on up front. But I think it's going to be interesting, really. There's some athletes that have really prepared well and trained for this race and focused on this race. The ITU girls, they're really just starting their season, so they're in a different phase.
Right.
It'll be interesting to see what sort of performance they can get out of themselves on race day. Ironman girls, myself, Rachel, Carolyn, coming off Kona. Yeah, you don't know. I know the other girls have kind of done a couple of races between Kona and now, so I think that will help them maybe put together a better race. I think it's really going to be, as you said, just pull a name out of a hat. But my favourites are, I think, Helly Fredrickson, focused on this race and prepared. Bella's another one, for sure. Meredith Kessler, you can never count her out. And Jodie Swallow, I believe that girl loves to race. So
she's been training for this race specifically, yeah.
Exactly, yeah. So, those are, the four that I've picked, but, there's a plethora of other girls that, could be there and prove me wrong.
How cool is it to see that the women's field has gotten so deep, that it's changed so much. It used to be you go to a race, you can pretty much go on one hand. There's 3, 4, 5 people who can win the race. Now, when you went to Kona, I mean, you look at that field or this field, or even Challenge Roth.
Yeah.
There's a lot of great women coming into the sport.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's great for the sport, and it shows the progression of more women racing triathlon, more women racing professionally, and that just going to raise the bar for everybody. So I was actually asked this question yesterday, and by the media, and the question basically was, we've seen a rise in popularity in women's sport in the media, so the media are taking more attention to the women's racing, and I said, well, it's justified, and I think that that's the future of our sport. The women's racing is only going to get more and more competitive, and the stories are there. It's just a matter of, the personalities in the sport delivering those stories to the greater media, and I think that that's a positive thing for our sport.
Well, one of the positives that I've seen is when you get a brand like a New Balance jumping into triathlon. I mean, we've had brands that were specific to triathlon from the running side. K-Swiss was focusing on triathlon, and same with Newton.
Yeah.
But New Balance is a brand built on running.
Yes.
And when they get involved with yourself and Sebastian Kienle and come away with 2 wins, you imagine them getting pretty pumped up about that. Talk a little bit about that type of connection to the sport and how good it is for the sport itself, but also for you.
Yeah, I mean, I came on board with New Balance mid-year, and they New Balance Global really only started focusing on triathlon this year, and I guess I have Sebastian Kienle to thank, because a few years ago he started testing running shoes, and the New Balance shoe was a shoe that he thought was the best shoe for his foot. And so he went to New Balance and asked for product, New Balance Europe, and they gave him product. Then he raced in them, had a few good results, went back and asked for maybe a sponsorship. And then so he got a sponsorship, and I think that caught the attention of New Balance USA, which is, the parent company. And then, that's where, I got a contract, basically. So, we've got to thank Sebastian for bringing our sport to their attention, and then, definitely having both Sebastian and I win in Kona this year certainly gave them a taste of just being in Kona gave them a taste of the multi-sport arena, and also having us both win, there's definitely a lot of excitement around triathlon at New Balance these days.
Did they do something in Europe with you guys? Did you guys go to England for New Balance?
Yeah, absolutely. So the global sales meetings are in London 2 weekends, 2 weeks after Kona, basically, and they flew myself, Sebastian was already in Germany, but they flew me out for the running day, which is running and also triathlon. Sebastian and I were the 2 athletes that they chose to come out and speak to the basically global sales team at New Balance.
I mean, that's huge.
Huge.
When they bring 2 triathletes in to speak to their running group, that is really gigantic for the sport.
Yeah, and it was nice. It was really well received. There was a lot of excitement. I mean, obviously coming off a world championship, 2 world titles, a lot of excitement that triathletes were now in New Balance shoes, and actually a lot of triathletes in the crowd, which is exciting.
So Miranda, looking towards 2015, the goal is to kick it off with Ironman Melbourne and validate, and then you don't see another iron distance race before Kona.
No, absolutely not. Melbourne will be, a long, hard training day for me. Racing mid-March. For me, it takes me till sort of, I like to take my time to get super fit. So it takes me till May, June to really be in great shape where I can be competitive. So I'll use Melbourne as a great training day. Down in Australia, it'd be nice to race in Australia and amongst my home crowd. And then after that, I will head to the US. I think I'm going to do St. George and a couple of halves, and hopefully sneak in a couple of Olympic distance races. But really, I wanted to be smart, and that, as you mentioned, the last year and a half has been big. There's been a lot of full distance races, 2 world titles, and with that, a lot of extra obligation and travel, and you've got to
that's all part of the
look
training,
at the big picture, and say, okay, how much stress has my body been through? And I want to make sure that I'm making the smart choices now, and that means validating in Melbourne, and then basically putting together a good couple of training blocks leading into Kona, and no more long course races until Kona. Yeah.
Now, have you been to this part of the world before?
I've never been to the Middle East, so that's another reason why I wanted to come out here and experience this race.
And what have you thought so far?
Yeah, I mean, when I think Middle East, I think like Aladdin and magic carpets, and it kind of feels like that.
It does
a little bit.
Yeah, it's our little magic carpet right here.
Yeah, and I'm looking for a camel. I'd like to see a camel while I'm here. I don't know what else. Desert sands. I guess it's. I don't know what else I really.
What you were expecting.
Expected, yeah.
People are people. Hotels are hotels.
Well, I mean, this hotel is pretty great. The
That's
Sofitel
pretty
here
awesome.
is beautiful, and the grounds are amazing, and Challenge is putting on a great event. So, I mean, you always know that's going to be a solid, a guarantee when you come to a Challenge event.
Well, have a great tour of the race course tomorrow.
Yes, thank you.
you will have the best seat in the house.
I will, yes.
And everybody's talking, oh, Rinny's just playing possum.
No.
She's like, no,
Absolutely.
I'm not playing
I don't play possum. If I was here to win, I would be telling you I was here to win. No, I don't mess around like that.
I know.
Yeah.
Well, you're here to be a class act, which you always are.
Thank you.
Appreciate what you do for the sport.
Yeah, thanks, Bob. Appreciate it.
All right, Mirinda Carfrae has been a guest again. This is Breakfast from Bahrain. My name is Bob Babbitt, and we are brought to you by Babbittville Radio. Check us out on iTunes. Hold on, everyone. We will be right back.